Hey Brandon, I'm going to do a quick search demonstrating how you might be able to find some articles on diagnosis or some diagnostic articles based on your topic. I'm just going to go into PubMed quickly. And so, I know I went over the mesh searching, but I'm going to do it again anyway, just to show you one way to search for the diagnostic topic. So when we search our mesh term, patellofemoral pain syndrome is the mesh term. And so one thing we can do is we can just select the diagnosis subheading. And then if we want to, we can say that we want to restrict it to be a major topic. And we don't have to worry about the checkbox here because there's nothing below this. And then add it to the search builder and search PubMed. And so from here, we could then limit to 5 years. For example, and now we have only 38 articles. So we could also limit to humans, we could limit to English language, we could see if there were any RCTs, we could limit to gender, age, all that kind of stuff. So depending on the different filters that you might want to try, you could do that. Just want to point out that up here where it says major, that's because we selected it to be a major subheading. I can also just type over this and type mesh. And that means it'll just be a general mesh term. It won't be a major concept. And that gives us many more. So that gives us almost 80, where that's a mesh term. It's not necessarily a major concept, but it is a mesh term with a diagnosis subheading. So that's one way that you can try to find some of the diagnostic articles regarding your clinical topic. And again, you can start to play around with the filters here, and maybe you want to see if there's a randomized controlled trial that was looking also at diagnosis. I don't know if that makes the most sense to do that type of filter, or maybe it makes more sense to look at a instead of a randomized controlled trial, maybe we want to see if we can find a systematic review or a meta-analysis and that kind of stuff. So you can play around with that. Another thing that we can do is if we go back to the main homepage, the PubMed homepage, we can try and do a clinical query search. So that's right here under PubMed Tools in the middle. And so we can just type in our term again and click search, and then these filters will show up. And here we can select diagnosis as a filter, and then we can play around with it here at this level being a narrow or a broad scope. So narrow being a little bit more refined, and when I limit to narrow, I have 11 articles. So if I click see all, actually we have to turn this off, the RCT off. And if I turn off the publication date 5 years, right now there are only 5 in the last 5 years. But if I deselect 5 years, we now have 10. I think originally it was saying 11, and that's probably because there is an animal study in there. So if I take humans off now, yeah, it brings us back up to 11. But we probably do want to make sure that we're focusing on humans. And again, we could then limit to 5 years. Now, the thing with a clinical query is that it's just, you just have a little less control over the search, and there might be overlap between these 5 results and the mesh search with the subheading of diagnosis, but I encourage you to try both and see if this helps you find some good articles on your topic. And definitely send me an email if you have any more questions. Okay, thanks, Brandon.